Hi there, everyone. We are here today to make the Simply Classic Clutch. It's a free sew along, and this is what we're making today. And we're going to quilt it just like this. This is the Canage quilting pattern. We're going to go through all those steps and then go ahead and put it all together. I'm using my Burnette today, and you can use that even with the leather, especially with this pattern. It really works well. I'm going to do mine in black, and I'm going to be using a light gray thread. So this is a navy, and I use navy thread on it, so it's the same, but obviously when it's light gray, we're going to have a different kind of pattern there. So I think our audio's kind of messed up, so we're going to turn this off and see if we can make it better. Hold on just a second. See if we can get this going. All right, see, can anybody hear me now? No sound. Hi, we're all working. Yep. All right, Marie, Mary, Diane, can you hear me? Apparently not today, so you never can tell with all this technology stuff. Okay, so I'm going to start over. This is what we're making today. We're making the Simply Classic Clutch. It is a sew along. You can sew with me, or of course you don't have to. This one here is in navy, and I use the same color thread, navy thread. We are going to do, I'm going to do black today, and I'm going to use kind of a silvery light gray thread so that you can really see the stitching. We're going to go through how to draw the lines, how to stitch it, using my Burnette today. And it's really a domestic friendly pattern, even with the leather. So we're excited about that. I did do a couple of tests ahead of time with some different foam. So I've got some memory foam here, and I also had some anti-soft and stable. I really want mine to be super cushy, so I'm going to use a layer of the memory foam and a layer of the anti-soft and stable. But you use, of course, whatever you would like. And I don't know if you saw, but a couple weeks ago on our live stream, we kind of went over different thicknesses, and you can use fleece or you cannot use fleece. I mean, there's just a lot of different things you can do there. So hopefully everybody's prepped and ready to go. Okay, so let's see. We see, okay, Diane says pretty good on the, okay, Nancy, you can hear me softly. Can you hear me? Let me talk a little bit louder. That might help. Apologize for this audio. Hey, Jackie. Okay, Nancy, turn your volume up. You good to go? Want to make sure you can hear. Good stuff. Okay. So before we get started, does anybody have any questions? Of course, we want everything prepped right now. I'm going to go over all the pieces, but did you have any questions on cutting things out, or what we're maybe going to go over today, or anything I can help you with? Okay, so Lisa says I'm cutting in and out. Okay, I got the thumbs up from Nancy. Let's see. Taylor, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. Okay.
We could try to...
Of course, a live stream right now, but it will, just show up as a live stream later on that you can watch later.
Okay, hopefully that gets a little better.
Okay. Okay, so Mary Orr says, sounds fine. I can hear you. Okay, so I think seems to be buffering a lot. We are going to maybe check the Wi-Fi real quick. Give us just a second.
Turn off on your phone.
Okay. We're going to turn off some Wi-Fi here on our end. some of our phones and stuff that are on Wi-Fi, and then hopefully that'll help the buffering. You know, unfortunately, when you live kind of out, I mean, we're not in the middle of nowhere, but you only get so, our internet's only so good, right? There's only so much speed out to us, so we're gonna go ahead and turn all that off, and hopefully that'll help. Okay. So Mary says a little buffering, better now, seems okay now. Okay, good. Okay, so Diane has a question. She says she's interested in a chain strap. So what we're going to do is, and I think Diane, you mentioned you didn't want to quilt as well. You know, if you don't want to quilt, you certainly don't have to do that. So when we get to a point where we put all this together, I suggest putting a couple of straps here on the side with D-rings. So you want to go ahead and cut, I would use 1/2-inch D-rings because this is a pretty small bag. So I would cut 2 pieces that are 1 inch wide by about 3 inches long this side. You could do the top, but remember we're going to be putting a zipper on the top and it might end up getting a little thick. So this, like on each side, might be a little bit better. Okay, so Diane said no quilting for her. Okay. And that's fine. Again, you can do this in whatever. If you have a solid, obviously you'd want to quilt, but if you're not using a solid, maybe you're using a crocodile or anything else, then you probably are not going to want to quilt. Okay. So we are going to move on. I'm going to move the camera. We're going to go over the pattern pieces, make sure you have everything you need, and then we're going to start showing you how to do your marking for your stitching. Now, don't hesitate to ask questions, okay? This is there's no question is a stupid question day, okay? I mean, every day's that way, but especially today. So don't hesitate if you have questions. That's what we're here for. We're here to help, and we want to see you have a nice clutch. Okay, so I'm going to move the camera. I'm going to move you down and over, and let's see if we can get you on the table. And we do have 2 cameras set up, so as we stitch, you're going to see some close-ups of the stitching. Yeah, there you see my machine, but for all the table work, we're going to be here. Okay, so you should have 2 main pieces, and your main pieces, you should have already put some kind of foam on there. Now, again, like I said, I'm using a memory foam that I get from Rocky Mountain Leather, and that's specifically for quilting with leather. You don't actually have to use that. You can use whatever you'd like. I'm using also a layer of anti-soft and stable here, but you know, Pellon foam, you know, Bosal, Thermoweb, whatever kind of foam you have is fine for this. The more layers you have, the puffier it's going to be. Okay, so I want mine to be super puffy. Okay, we're still seeing a little buffering problem, so we're going to see what we can do to fix that. We're going to switch to some hot spots and see if that helps. Okay, the other thing we have is on the main parts of the bag with the leather, we have credit card slots, and this is a piece that obviously is cut. You've got pattern pieces for that. This in 2, and hopefully, you know, that should all be fine, regardless of what you're using. We also have 2 zipper ends. These, of course, going to go on the little ends of the zipper. We have a zipper overlay. We have our slip handle. And of course, there's no stabilizer or interface or anything on the back of these. We have our 2 slip or zipper pocket pieces. And we have a zipper for that. And then I also have my 2 lining pieces, and then we have our zipper for the top, and then of course 2 zipper pulls. All right, before we get started, how is the video? How is the audio? Anything else that we need to try to change? Is everybody out there? Everybody okay? Everybody can hear me and see what's going on? Okay, we turned off some internet in some places, and hopefully that helped. Yes, sounds good. Still buffering. Every other word is cutting out. I'm not sure. Yes, you're good. Okay. Lisa, I don't know if maybe if you get out and come back in, that would help. Possibly. I'm not sure. Other people, okay, Nancy, yes. Diane, yes. Mary, yes. Okay, so Nancy says when that happens to her, she closes and reopens. Jackie says yes. Lisa's going to try. Okay. Well, hold on just a second, Lisa, for you. All right. Okay, so Zena asked, do you use 2 layers of the foam to get a more puffy appearance in the quilting? Yes, and that's what I'm doing today. I'm going to use 2 layers. So what I have here is the white layer you see right here is an anti-soft and stable. And then this bottom layer that you see that's kind of a black color is actually a memory foam that I buy from Rocky Mountain Leather. And it is, you can see like when you push on it, it kind of has a memory, I guess, I mean, it's memory foam, right? It'll bounce back, but it does give it kind of a softer look. So if you want a puffier look, go ahead and put 2 layers of foam. Okay, Lisa's back. Hopefully that helps you, Lisa. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and start. Again, don't hesitate to ask if you have any questions. And to start out, you're going to need a ruler with a 45-degree angle. Now, when I teach this class in person, this is one of the things that a lot of people have a hard time with, is lining everything up and getting the actual lines drawn on the bag. So don't hesitate to ask questions here. I have this OmniGrid ruler, and you can see, hopefully here, that there is a 45-degree angle on this ruler right here. Okay. So in the future, if you want to make this bag again, you want to make it a little bit different, you can certainly play with some of these angles and see how it changes the look of the bag. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we're going to find the center of our bag. And let me just say that on the clutch, when you look at it, you can see that we have this main piece right here, this main quilting line. This is going to be kind of our main line that we work off of. This is going to be our center point. So we need to find that center point. The reason why it's not centered on the bag, I mean, you can see here you have a full line of quilting, and then you have like a partial line, and you have a partial line. But the reason why is because of this slip handle. So we're not centering this line, this main line, in the middle of the bag. We're actually bringing it down some, and we're doing that on purpose so that everything looks proportional inside the bag. Okay. Hey, Barbie. So Barbie from Genie Design is here, and I know a lot of you are going to be joining us in the Florida retreat. We're so excited about that. Thanks for being here. Okay, we are going to first measure up. We're going to find the center of our bag, and this is an even 10 inches. We're going to go up 3 inches, and we're going to make a dot. Now this dot that we make, and this is of course with a silver marking pen, is going to be where this entire design is quilted and how it's centered. So again, this dot is essentially where my SC is. Okay, so I'm going to find the center on both pieces. Let's see, 3 inches up and centered. Okay, now is where your 45-degree angle comes in. The lines, the diamond lines are 2 inches apart, but we want the first line to be drawn 1 inch from the center. So 1 inch from the center, we're going this way. 1 inch from the center, we're going this way. Same thing. 1 inch from the center, we're going this way, and 1 inch from the center, we're going this way. So as you put your ruler on the bag, you do not want to just match up, and I'm going to do it this way. So what I'm doing is I have my 45-degree angle aligned at the top of the bag. I don't want to put the edge of the ruler on that mark I just made, because if I do, now my line, my quilting is going to go right through the center, and that's not what I want. So what I'm going to do is move this over until the 45 degrees is lined up at the top, and the 1 inch mark that I made, or the dot I made, is on the 1 inch line. Okay, so I can see my dot right here. It is on that 1 inch line. My 45 degrees is at the top, and now I can draw my first line. Now, if you have a 6-inch ruler, be careful with this, because sometimes quilters have rulers that are like 6.5 inches or 4.5 inches. But if you have an even 6-inch or even 4-inch or even 2-inch ruler, you can actually draw the lines on both sides. So, because we're making them every 2 inches. So I'm going to do a line here, lines I just drew. And now I'm going to draw a line on both sides of the ruler again. And then we have one more to go in this direction. So I'm going to, one of these lines I made, I'm going to put the 2-inch mark on it. And I'm going to draw another line. So of course I can't draw one over here, I'm off my bag. But you can see that we now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines. Okay, does that make sense? Deborah's asking, is Decovite fusible? Oh. Okay, we'll wait for you to repost that. So once this is done in one direction, we need to change it and do it in the other direction. And to do that, we just need to put our 45-degree ruler on a different edge. So here, I'm going to put it on the bottom edge instead of the top. I'm going to make sure that my 1 inch line is on my center dot. And then once it's lined up, I'm going to go ahead and draw my first line. When that's done, I'm going to move the ruler over so that my 2-inch line is on the line I drew. And then I'm going to go ahead and draw my other lines, okay, on either side of the ruler. And then we're going to move it one more time. And we're going to do it again, okay? So now, of course, you can see this pattern starting to form. You can see that this dot is right in the center of this entire pattern here. And, okay, so Deborah asked, Decovite fusible and Decarbond fusible similar? I'm not sure Decarbond. I think Decarbond is a Pellon product that is more, it's thinner than Decovite. I think it's more used for like credit card slots, and you know, it's not quite as thick in the process of working with Thermoweb to get a Decovite compatible product. We've got a sample in, we've used it. It is, when I had Decovite and this, my product in my hand, I could not tell the difference. That's how similar it is. So hopefully we're going to have that in the next, like, maybe 3 months, and then you'll be able to get it from us, and we will make sure we keep it in stock so you guys can get it when you need it. All right, Nancy needs to go, so you'll watch the replay. It's nice to have you here. I appreciate you stopping in. Okay, so once we have one done, I'm going to go ahead and repeat that process on this other side. All right, so we're going to, let me line it up on the top first. We're going to move this to our 1 inch mark and draw our lines. Okay, I'm going to move it again. Stand up for this. And then we're going to do it one more time. Okay, and then I'm going to turn it so that the 45-degree angle is at the bottom. And we're going to repeat that process. And then we're going to start quilting. We got one more to do. So once you looks like one of my lines is wrong here. Let's see. Once you make draw your first line, you don't have to worry about the 45-degree angle anymore because the line you drew is at a 45-degree angle. So as long as you line up with the line you drew, you don't have to worry about that any longer. It's just for that first measurement. Okay? Alrighty, so we're going to start stitching. And what I'm going to do is basically just quilt and just stitch on all these lines. So I'm going to move the camera a little bit more for you here, but then in addition, we're also going to use the close-up camera so that you can see both. All right, I have my stitch length at a 5, which is going to be slightly bigger than 6 inches per inch. And as far as where to start here, you know, typically when you quilt, you make your batting larger than your project because as you quilt, it shrinks. This is a small project and it really is not going to shrink. So I don't like to necessarily start at the end. I usually start in the middle and then kind of work my way out. But, you know, that would be the only thing I recommend as far as where to start. So I'm going to start down here at the bottom. Okay, so because I have memory foam, you can see that the presser foot's making a pretty good indentation here. That's going to pop back out. It's okay. I do have my presser foot tension at about a 1. It's pretty low because I don't want it to smush any more than it needs to. So I'm just going to keep on stitching. So we got 2 there. And then we got a couple more in this direction. Okay, so now that we have them all done in one direction, we're just going to go switch it and start stitching in the other. So one thing you're going to notice is I do have my Teflon foot on. I pretty much keep that on this machine all the time. I don't worry about switching it out. Deborah asked what stitch length. So I'm using on this Burnett a 5, and basically it goes from 1 to 6. What that is roughly, if we measure a 1-inch section, it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's about 7 inches per stitch right now. Okay. Anywhere between 6 and 7 per inch is going to be perfect. I've got a couple more. So anybody that doesn't have room for a large industrial machine, this Burnett is pretty bad to bone. I would say maybe take a look at, getting yourself one. We do have a resource section on our website that will give you a link on where you can purchase one if you don't have a local shop. And I highly recommend the guys out in College Station. They really do a great job. So I missed a line. I could just tell it looked off, so I'm going to go ahead and stitch this one last one. Okay, and there we have our quilting done for this one. Now, we will make more lines to get this canage actual pattern, but if you don't want to do that, you can certainly just stop here. And you can just keep your diamond pattern and don't go any further. So just kind of keep that in mind. That's the great thing about these, is that it is 100% up to you. I can see here I missed a line up here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and draw it in. It's just a tiny little one. And we're going to start stitching. Doing tiny little back stitches just so that I don't have to worry about it starting to come unstitched as I try to put my zipper on or try to stitch around and complete the bag. Now another thing I want to mention is I'm using a size 90-14 needle. And that's really the best size for this leather that we have, because otherwise the needle leaves really big holes in the leather and it just doesn't really quite look as good. So I would say 90-14 needle if you're using a domestic. If you're using an industrial, you want to use a Tex 70 thread with a 16 needle. I am using a Tex 45 thread here with this needle. So Karen says, I wish I lived closer to the October retreat. Would have loved to join you in Barbie. I know. Hopefully we'll do more. This is our first run with it. And, you know, you never know. Things might change. We may travel some. We'll see how it goes. It wasn't limited to 11 students because we only had 11 industrial machines. So, you know, that might change as well, too, at some point. And Karen, remind me where you are. I can't remember where you live, what state. Wisconsin. So Taylor, our behind the scenes person here, is from Wisconsin, and she's doing a little dance behind the camera, just to let you know. Okay, so now we have our second piece, all our diamonds quilted. And you can see how puffy this is. This is pretty puffy. Alright, so once you have this completed, let's move on to the second phase. So basically there's two quilting steps. You do one, then you have to mark and do your second. So the second step has to do with the straight lines. And again, you got to remember that we're always working right here within this center diamond, in this center dot. What we want to do is, based on this center piece or this center point, we want to basically do both vertical and horizontal lines around each of these 4 points. We're going to do it 1/4 of an inch to the right and left of each one in both directions. Okay, so what I'm going to do is put my ruler on that point, and what I'm doing is matching up. I've got 3 points here, 1, 2, 3, okay? This is the line I'm looking at. I'm going to draw a line 1/4 inch above, 1/4 inch below, but I'm going to line my 1/4 inch mark up on these 3 points to make sure it's straight. Okay, and then I'm just going to turn that around, and then I can essentially measure a 1/2 inch from that line. And then I'm going to do the same thing with this point. So line those 3 up, draw a line, and turn it, and draw a 1/2 inch from there. And the reason why I'm doing a 1/2 inch is because to basically go a 1/4 inch below is a 1/2 inch from the line I drew. Okay? And now we're going to do them. Make sure I'm straight. And then we're going to turn, and we're going to draw a line a 1/2 inch from those, which will give us a 1/4 inch to the other side. Okay, now, looking horizontally, we don't have any more diamonds that have points at the top or at the bottom to draw any more horizontal lines. But we do have some more vertically, so we're going to draw more lines vertically. So Mary asked, how far apart from the center again, please? Okay, so from the center, your diamond patterns are 2 inches apart. Once you stitch all those, then you're just going to work around the points. And on each side of the point, you're going to go a 1/4 inch to the right and a 1/4 inch to the left on all 4 points of that center diamond. Okay. Now, because, again, looking at this center line of stitching, I mean, this is where our bag is totally centered around, is this right here. We can see that we do have a couple more points that we can draw lines on. We have one right here, and we also have one right here. So we're going to go ahead and do 4 more vertical lines on these points, this one and this one. Okay, does that make sense? I know it can be a little confusing. I see, like I said, when I teach these classes in person, that this is the part that is a little difficult sometimes. People aren't exactly sure where to draw these lines. So don't hesitate to ask questions. So Mary, I hope I answered that for you. I think I did. But if not, ask again. Oops. Okay, so when you're done, you should have 8 vertical lines and 4 horizontal lines. And then all we'll do is we're going to go ahead and quilt those. So while you are working on that, I will go ahead and continue drawing my lines. And then once we're done, we'll need a wet paper towel to just, and I say wet, like a damp paper towel, to go ahead and get all of these lines off. They should just come right off. The silver marking pen is great for leather and for faux leather. And I actually made my line too far there. I went a 1/2 inch instead of a 1/4 inch. So let me go ahead and make sure that I pay attention and get it correct. You can see how far apart these 2 lines are. It doesn't look right. Okay, so I'm not going to quilt on that bottom one. I'm just going to quilt on these 2. And then we're going to do the same thing on the vertical. So we're going to have 8 here, 8 lines instead of 4. And the good thing about drawing these out is that you can look at it before you quilt it to make sure that it looks right. Sometimes appearances, when you step back and look, you can kind of see that, oops, I drew that line wrong. Okay. I did make extra bobbins because I thought I might run out. A lot of times when you do bags like this, you have to be prepared. So we'll see. See how far I get. And one thing too that I want to tell you about is if you are using Tex 45 thread and it's giving you a little bit of problem, don't use your automatic thread cutter. Instead, go ahead and make sure you pull your threads to the back and hold that bobbin thread really well when you start. Alright, I've got a couple more to go here. Okay, and there we have the first side totally quilted and totally done. That light gray looks really pretty with this. Now I did go ahead and wind a bobbin and get ready with some black as well. When I actually construct the bag, I'm going to use black because I don't want to have any problems with the stitches showing through, you know, on the black when I do the zipper in the total stitching around. But for the quilting part and any kind of top stitching, I definitely want to use the silver. Or I think it's called light gray, theoretically. Point are you at? We don't want to get too far ahead here or too far behind. Mary says she's right on time. All right. Oh, Colleen is here from Sweden. Hi, Colleen. Colleen is a great customer, and I'm so glad you're able to be here. It's got to be, I think you're way ahead of us. It's probably evening in Sweden. Probably about, what, 7 at night, maybe? 8 at night? Yes, almost 8. Woo! right, just a couple more rows and then we will be moving on. So Natalie says, hi from the Ukraine. Wow. Hello. Wow. I'm so glad you're joining us. Natalie, I hope things are well for you. I know that you guys are going through a rough time over there, so we feel for you. All right, so I've got this done. Bonnie says, I've been listening while I make a 45-minute drive to an hour drive to a doctor's appointment. I'm wondering if this will be in YouTube later. Yes, it will be, Bonnie. You may end up, when you go to our YouTube channel, have to go to the live section to see it, but it is being recorded and saved on YouTube, so you can follow along later and sew with us then. Okay, that I'm using is what's considered, it is a real leather, but that's, you know, Americans tend to call real leather genuine leather, but genuine leather is really a type of leather. And the type of leather that it is a leather with this kind of coating on it. So it's been finished, it's been, it has like a, almost like a soft, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just like a already finish on it. Things aren't going to soak into it necessarily. I mean, you don't want to, you know, just dip it in water and leave it there. You know, it will stain if water stays on it for a long period of time. But to clean this leather, you can just use a damp paper towel, some kind of damp cloth to go ahead and wipe over it, and you can see all of those lines come off. It looks great. So I'm going to do the same thing on this one. Even that line I drew wrong, that was on this side. So let me make sure I get that one off. So Natalie says, I always try to watch when possible. Your videos are educational and positive. Thanks for your support. Oh, you are very welcome. I appreciate you watching. It's really interesting to me how technology allows us to connect when we're so far apart. You know, we're worlds away from each other, but I guess technology can be a really good thing. Sometimes it can be frustrating, right? But overall, I think it's a good thing. Okay. So from here, you can go ahead and clean up your threads if you want. Mine aren't too bad. All those will end up being hidden. I probably am going to just go ahead and cut the ones off here at the top, so they don't get in the way of my zipper, and maybe I'll just go all the way around, give it a little haircut. Doesn't have to be perfect because all of these threads will be caught in the seam allowance when we're done. Okay. Now, if you have a bag tag, it is a great time to put it on. And depending on the shape and size and all that, the best place to put it is right there in the center. So I have one, and I'm going to go ahead and get that on. And basically, at that point, our exteriors will be done. All right. One side you like better than your other, you can go ahead and choose the side you want to be your front. I don't know that one's any different for me. I'm just going to go ahead and stick this right here. So make a couple of little slits, and I need to get my knife to do that. And then we are going to move on to our slip handle. So I got somebody going to get that knife for me. We'll put that on just a second. And as we move on, we're going to do our slip handle. So our slip handle is going to be this piece here that you have. And what you're going to do is you're going to start out by drawing a line 1 inch. You can turn it over and draw a line 1 inch from one edge. And then we're going to fold this in thirds. So you are going to need a little bit of double-sided tape. You can clip it if you want. It's up to you. I'm going to use some double-sided tape, and I'm going to keep it right in the middle so that I don't stitch over it. So I'm just going to put one here. I'm going to turn this around, make sure that's down real good. So Diane says, I'll have to watch from here. My machine just broke. Oh no. Oh, that's frustrating, Diane. I'm sorry. Okay, so we are going to fold this long edge up to that line. And we're going to have it just under the line. I don't want to cover it. I just want to fold it up to it. Go all the way across. Okay, so you can still see the line there. And then I'm going to put a piece of double-sided tape here in the center of this. And fold the other edge. So essentially we're folding this in thirds. And that other edge is just going to go all the way to this folded edge. You can't hardly even see that. We'll put that in the back. But this will be our slip handle. Now, if by chance you want to have a shape on the end of your slip handle, now is the time to go ahead and punch that in, or you can try to cut it in. A straight edge looks great too, either one, whichever you prefer. I am going to just leave this straight and stitch with you. Full disclosure, I did go ahead and cut just a small shape in the handle that I'm actually going to put on the bag. These bags are actually going to big shows, and so I really wanted to make sure that I had, everything looking good on it, and have that little extra special touch because it is going to be seen by a lot of people. But what we're going to do from here is just go ahead and top stitch this handle. Now you're going to top stitch 1/8 of an inch from the edge. I am going to slightly lessen my stitch length. So I was on a 5 on my Burnett, and I'm going to move it down to about a 4.5 to do this. Okay, and then we're going to stitch all the way around. So I can get one more stitch in. And then just a tiny little back stitch there. Trim our threads. And of course you can use a lighter on them too. And then that's going to be our slip handle. So you can see the difference in these two. Again, I just used my strap punch, my end punch, to just go ahead and do tiny little curves in that. But either one is going to look really great on this bag. So the other thing that we want to do is to go ahead and punch our holes now for our rivets. Now, if you don't have rivets, you can certainly stitch this on, and what I would suggest to do that is to either right now you can do like a second row of stitching around, or you could stitch to a certain point on here where you stop, and then you place this on the bag, you stitch around this corner, and then you know, kind of go from there. So essentially do 2 rows of stitching, or two times of stitching, one to get the top stitching done for the middle, and then the ends to adhere it to the bag. But I am going to use rivets, and in the pattern, of course, I give you measurements as to where to make these holes. So what you would do is just use your ruler and go ahead and draw in or put a little mark where the holes are going to go. So I'm just going to make a mark and another mark. Basically it's a half and an inch. So half and then 1 inch. Okay. We are going to, here, let me go ahead and put my bag tag on, and then we're going to measure where our handle's going to go, but we're not going to actually install it yet. So my bag tag has a prong. Get these off. We officially have these now in stock. These are the Olfa cutting knives, so you might want to check that out when you get a second on the site. We used to carry the Zoid, but the Zoid went out of business, so we had to find a replacement. Once I put that on, I usually put a little bit of double-sided tape over that just to kind of hold it in place and to protect my lining. Okay. There we go. And one thing I like with this memory foam is that you put that on tight enough you can see the puffiness even in that. I really like that. Okay, so take your handle, and what we're going to do is place it about a ½ inch up from this top line that you stitched. Okay, and of course you want it centered. Now what you want to make sure is that you do not punch holes in any of your quilting, because if you do that, then of course it's going to come apart. It should come in, you know, somewhere in this diamond and somewhere in this diamond. So I'm just going to go ahead and line this up, and you can either kind of eyeball this or you can measure, whatever is easier. I'm going to measure because I have been known to put these on crooked before. So let's see. And I am actually, sorry about that. So 1/4 inch, I'll line that up on that line, place this on, make sure it's centered, and it should be about between this vertical line and this vertical line. It's about where the placement's going to be. Go ahead and just mark your holes. Again, make sure they're not going to be on any quilting. And it looks like mine are going to be okay. I'm going to punch the holes, but I'm not going to attach the handle yet. So, okay. Get my little holes out. So Mary asked what size rivets I'm going to be using. I'm going to be using 8mm. But, you know, if you have something a little smaller that you need to use, that's okay. Or even a 9mm would work here. Okay. Good question. All right. So now once we have this done and we have our slip handle, I'm going to put this one here and put this one aside. We're going to move on. Mary, you keeping up? You okay? You need me to hold on for just a minute? Diane asked Chicago screw. Yeah, that would be an excellent option as well. Chicago screws would be great. So someone here is asking me, where do you get your labels made? I actually get them from a place called Metal Things Art, and there is a link for it in on our website. If you go to our resources, so go to our website and at the top go to resources, then there is a page there that has all kinds of good information. It's information on where you can order the Burnett, where you can order the sew type magnets, where you can order all the things I use, leather and faux leather. And some of them are affiliate links, some of them are not. You know, I'm never going to recommend something that I don't use and love myself. But if you check them out there, you will see the link to that website there. Okay. So we're going to set this aside. Don't put your handle on yet. And we are going to move on. You've got 2 zippers. You want to make sure that the zipper for the top of your bag is exactly, and I'm going to look in the pattern, I believe it's 8.5 inches. Let's see. Yes, exactly 8.5 inches. Okay, if it's any more than that, you're going to have a problem stitching it on. If it's a little less, don't worry. It's okay to be less than more. So the first thing we want to do is to go ahead and put our zipper pull on. And I'm going to just kind of burn this edge. Stick the zipper pull on. And what you're going to do is take one of your ends and you're going to clip the, okay, Mary says she's punching holes. And then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. So make sure it's the right side of the leather to the, or faux leather to the right side of the zipper. Make sure you have a nice even edge here. Okay, Mary, I'm going to hold on a second and let you kind of catch up. Is anybody else sewing? Besides Mary? I want to make sure nobody falls too far behind. While I'm putting double-sided, or while I'm waiting, I'm going to put some double-sided tape on a few things. Okay, Diane says I'm behind too. Okay, that's fine. We're just going to hold off. Just go ahead and take your time and get what you need to done. I'm going to put a little bit of double-sided tape on my zipper pull, or my zipper overlay while we're waiting. And also my credit card slots. So I don't know if any of you were able to watch our live last night. You know, every Thursday we have a live stream where we go over all kinds of fun stuff. We go over usually some sewing history, we give you some inspiration, we talk about some pairings of some things in the shop and all kinds of fun stuff. But aside from sewing, one of the things I mentioned is that we have been having earthquakes here. And we don't have earthquakes in Georgia. But we have. We've had 5 earthquakes in 7 days. And so they're not huge earthquakes. They've been like 2.0 on the Richter scale, which I know, you know, for some people who have really experienced an earthquake, that's not bad. But it's just not normal for us. And so it's definitely been strange, to say the least, and very just very odd. We've had some odd weather here. Okay, so Sharon says, I absolutely love the lives and the history that you've given them. Well, thank you. Yes, I'll tell you, I wish I could say that I have all this in my head, but I don't. I get a lot of help. Shauna, and actually today's Shauna's birthday, so if you're out there, tell her happy birthday. She's helping us out. And she does a lot of the research and all that for the lives. So Shauna has just done fabulous with it. Of course, Taylor is behind the scenes, always helping as well, getting all the cameras, and she's more of the tech guru, and so I really appreciate their help. I am not a one-person shop here. I have got some good help. The other thing, I guess you might know or not know, is that we are in the process of renovating a warehouse. So back didn't work. That didn't happen because of the hurricane. Everybody had to get their houses fixed. And so anyway, they've started working on it, and of course ran into problems because there's no such thing as construction without problems. So we're hoping to have it done in the next few months, and or sooner. And you know, I mean, it's going to be good. We're excited about it, and eventually the long-term plan is to maybe, you know, build a building to have some retreats and classes out there, regular retreats and classes, but initially we need all the space for warehouse use right now. But our headquarters are going to be there. We're going to have our offices, we're going to have our warehouse space, and it's in a nice little town called Thompson, Georgia. So we are really excited to move in, and I'm sure when I first turn on my camera today, you can see some of the chaos behind me. We're cramped and we're all, you know, struggling for space, but it's all good. I'm glad we all like each other here because we're always on top of each other. All right. So how are we doing, Diane and Mary? I want to make sure that it's all looking good. So Mary Orr says happy birthday. Okay, so Diane says go. How about you, Mary? You okay? And then we also have Savvy Design saying, that's so cool, happy birthday. My birthday was yesterday. Oh, well, happy birthday. It must be a good month because my birthday is later on this month too. I think April's a busy month for birthdays. Okay, we're going to move on. We're going to go ahead and stitch our zipper ends to our zipper. And so again, this zipper is cut to exactly 8.5 inches. And I like to stitch from the back side of my zipper. For whatever reason, my machine seemed to like it going over the zipper teeth this way versus this way. I don't know. I mean, I think it's just a preference thing. No rule there by any means, but just you see me flip this over, you'll know why I'm doing it. We're going to stitch this 1/4 inch from the edge. Okay, so 1/4 inch here and 1/4 inch there. I'm sitting here thinking if I want to switch to black thread right now, but I do want to top stitch with the light gray, so I think I'm just going to keep the light gray in for now. So 1/4 inch, we're going to go ahead and stitch. Do that on both sides. Move my clips down a little bit. So Deborah says, my birthday was this weekend. I retired as well. Oh, congratulations. So I'm looking forward to relaxing and making some cool bags and wallets. Traveling as well. Good for you. I know, you know, my husband and I retired a couple years ago now, and that's kind of when we really, Simply Classic, I was able to dedicate more time to it. And he keeps reminding me that I'm supposed to be retired, and I tell him I am. I'm having a ball. This is exactly what I want to be doing. So, you know. Okay. Once you have these stitched on, what you're going to do is take the end and you're going to push it up towards the seam allowance, up towards the end of the zipper end, okay? So then you're going to roll this around and you're going to capture that seam allowance right in between. Okay, so I think you can see that. I'm going to go ahead and put a couple of clips. And don't worry if this is looking a little long right now. We're going to clip that off in just a minute. So you see how that's rolled? We're basically putting the seam allowance, we're encapsulating, or we're curving around that seam allowance. We're capturing that seam allowance in the zipper end. Okay, we're going to do the same thing on the side. Push it up, and then we're going to turn this, and we're going to capture that right there. And now we're going to top stitch. Yes, for those of you who don't know, Shauna and Taylor are sisters. Okay, now when you top stitch, you want to top stitch as close as possible to your stitch line. So where your zipper meets your zipper end is where you're going to top stitch. And of course, in this instance, you do want to top stitch from the front, so I am going to be going over the zipper with it face up. Okay, and then that's what we have. So we're going to repeat on the other side. And then once that's done, go ahead and take some good sharp scissors and just cut off the excess in the back. Okay, so I'm going to stick my zippers underneath there, or scissors underneath there. Go ahead and even this side up, and then even this side up. And there we have our zipper pull, or zipper, top zipper is what essentially we're doing. Okay, good to go. So we're going to set this aside for just a minute, and we're going to work on our interior zipper pocket. So in this case, what we want to do is to take our zipper. We're going to put the wrong side of our zipper against the right side of our pocket. You can do a couple things here. You can just hold it in place, it's not that big, or you can use some wonder clips, or you can use a little bit of double-sided tape to hold it, whichever you prefer. So I'm just going to stick this on the machine and go ahead and stitch. And when I stitch, a lot of people ask me when we're in class, how far away? And basically what I'm doing is I'm putting the very edge of my foot, my Teflon foot, right up against the teeth. That helps me obviously stitch a straight line, and then it's about 1/4 of an inch away. Okay, so someone's asking here, how do you adhere the foam? That's a good question. I kind of left that out, didn't I? I actually use 505 spray. And 505 spray is a spray adhesive that you can get at most quilt shops, and it is what quilters use a lot when they actually have batting that they want to adhere to quilts. However, you can use it for anything. And this is, you know, kind of the well-known stuff, but there's other brands out there. It's not just this brand, but it's just a temporary adhesive. And I usually, one thing I want to say, spray it on your foam and then put the foam on the back of the main piece. Because if you spray your main piece and then put the foam on, what's going to happen is that's a good question. So, Lady Pink Bags is here. Thank you so much for joining us. We enjoyed you last night on the live. And Juanita said, how thick a foam are you using? So I decided I wanted mine to be pretty puffy. And you can see here, obviously, how puffy that is. You can see the indentation with the tag and all. And what I did is I used one layer of memory foam and one layer of anti-soft and stable. So mine's pretty cushy, okay, pretty thick. The anti-soft and stable, of course, you can get at any of your local quilt shops or any sewing store, you know, that you like. That's usually pretty easy to find. The memory foam I get from a place called Rocky Mountain Leather. It is specifically, well, typically used in leather bags and leather making and quilting leather bags. I like it because it does have a memory feature. You can see it's kind of like those memory foam slippers that you buy, and they're nice and cushy, and I just like the look of it. So I'm using 2 layers of foam. Okay. So now that we have our zipper sewed onto one side, we're going to open this up. And the thing you want to make sure of is that your seam allowance goes towards your zipper pocket. So your actual zipper tape is laying flat. Okay, don't top stitch like this, because if you do, you're going to have a hard time getting your zipper pull on, and it's going to end up covering your teeth. So make sure you go in the opposite direction, and the seam allowance is going down towards the pocket. Okay, and we're going to top stitch because we want to hold that in place. Okay, so that's what we have. So now I'm going to repeat that process on the other pocket. So we're going to take our other pocket piece, we're going to put the wrong side of the zipper right on top of this piece, and we're going to stitch it on, and then we're going to top stitch. Open it up and top stitch. Now make sure that your pockets here on the side are matching up. Okay? You don't want it to be off like this, because then it's not going to fit in the zipper overlay opening. So make sure those are all matched up as best you can. Don't have to be perfect. And then we're going to stitch. Okay, make sure again that your zipper tape is laying nice and flat, and then top stitch. So now you're going to see the right side of your zipper with the wrong sides of your pockets, and you're going to see the wrong side of the zipper with the right side of your pockets. Now it seems a little backwards, but it can all work out. Let me cut all my little strings here, little threads, and burn that. And then we're going to put our zipper pull on. Find my other zipper pull. There it is. Okay, Diane and Mary, how we doing? Or anybody else out there that's sewing with us? going to go ahead and put some double-sided tape right at the edge of the zipper tape on the top and the bottom. Okay, Diane says she's doing good. Okay. All right. Moving right along. So we're going to set that aside, and we now want to find the center of both of our lining pieces. So I'm just going to put a little notch. Some double-sided tape on here. See if I can get that off. There we go. And put a little notch here. All right, let's go ahead, and the first thing we want to do is put our zipper overlay on our piece, one of our pieces. So you're going to go down, let me look, because I cannot remember off the top of my head. You're going to place it one and a half inches down. And I am going to, let me do it, no, it's 1 inch. Let me get my ruler. And I'm just going to center this. Okay, so from here we're going to stitch around the outside of this rectangle. I think at this point I'm going to go ahead and switch my threads and switch over to black. I have everything kind of set and ready to go for that, so switch my bobbin out. So sometimes you obviously want to use contrasting thread, and obviously I wanted to do that for the quilting part, but for the construction part I really don't. I want to go ahead and stick with the same color thread. So a little when constructing, and then of course for top stitching you can do whatever you prefer. Diane says, my big problem is I don't have all my stuff close by. Yeah, you know, it's funny you say that. That's always a hard thing for me whenever I do lives, because I'm always forgetting something. I never just sit still. I'm up and out of my chair. And so I've had Taylor already today, since we've been on this live, had to go fetch a few things for me, so I fully understand. In the same way. It's hard to have everything you need right there, because you think, oh, I need that, or oh, that would be helpful, and next thing you know, you're up and about. I get it. Okay, so I have my black in. And we're just going to top stitch. And that does not sound right. Let me see what I got going on. Sounds like my bobbin wasn't put in right. It's funny how we know that, isn't it? We can hear it and we think, oh, looked fine. Maybe it was just my ears. All right, let's try this again. Try to go in the same holes. Mary says, I'm caught up, but it's crazy. I keep losing pieces. You know, it's funny you say that. I do the same thing. What is this? Where's that? The good thing is that there's enough of us that usually one of us knows where everything is. Or whatever it is we're looking for. We don't all know where everything is, but one of us knows where something is. A little back stitch because it's black and you're not going to be able to tell. All right. Okay, so from here we're going to cut the center out. And when you do that, you're just going to put a little clip. Make sure that as you come down, you obviously put your tip of your scissors underneath your zipper overlay. You don't want to cut that by accident. And then just go ahead and make sure you don't cut your overlay and cut along the back of your zipper or your lining. Now this back, you know, I see a lot of people in class are trying to get it exactly even with the overlay, and you don't need to do that. Nobody's going to see this back here. Doesn't matter what it looks like. When you flip it around, as long as it looks nice there, you are good to go. Okay. So from here, we are going to go ahead and remove the backing from our double-sided tape that we put on our zipper and center that in the hole. In all honesty, this is the worst part for me. It seems like I can't get these things centered very well. So bear with me as you want to center it not only from top to bottom, but also from left to right. Because you want to make sure that you have enough space to stitch on either side. Okay, we're going to see if that does the trick. So now we're going to stitch around the small rectangle and make sure that in the back your pocket's laying nice and flat. And you're going to do about 1/8 of an inch away. And again, I'm going to do a little back stitch here because it's black and you really cannot tell. threads. And whenever you do a pocket this way, you're always going to have about 1.25 inches here at the bottom that you're going to need to cut off. So just fold the upper part of the pocket down towards the bottom. And of course, the bottom is the curved edges. Okay, so just make sure you have that. Keep that in mind. And then we're just going to cut this off. Now this is a small pocket, but you know, it's a small bag. We can do two things. You can either turn the bag through the pocket, or you can turn the bag through the bottom and then go ahead and close the bottom through the pocket. The way the pattern's written is you close the bag through the pocket, but what happens is that as you come around and you stitch, you have to stop, you know, right about, you have to go around the curve. And when we put all this together, you're going to stop right about here and here. That's about the same width as the pocket. So I have found, after making this bag several times and in class, that it's almost easier to just pull it through the pocket. So what we're going to do is we're going to stitch down both sides. Make sure you back stitch really good at the bottom, and we're going to leave that pocket open. Okay? When you do this, you want to turn it over. You're going to pull the zipper away from the side like this, and that's where you're going to stitch. And then you're going to do the same thing over here. We're just going to kind of pull this away, and that's where you're going to stitch. Don't try to stitch it this way. You're going to struggle, and there's no need for it when you can just stitch it from the front. Okay. If you have any extra zipper on either side of this pocket, you can certainly trim it. It's pretty good for me. Should be pretty close if you cut everything according to the pattern. Sometimes, yeah, I use scrap pieces and they're a little bigger, and I just go, use it and then cut it off after. So it's whatever works for you. Okay? And there is our zipper pocket. So how's everybody doing out there? Doing good? Set that aside, and we're going to move on to our credit card slots. And the credit card slots are really pretty basic. I mean, you know, since we wrote this pattern, we actually have adhesive lining that we could theoretically just keep this straight and put some adhesive lining and fold it over. That's probably how I would do it in the future, but since the pattern's written this way, this is how we're going to do it. You're going to go ahead and put double-sided tape, and you want to use about 1/8 inch around 3 sides. Mary says doing good. Okay. We're going to remove this, and we're going to go ahead and measure and I'm just going to go ahead and put that on. Now, we're going to split this in half so that we can put a credit card on each side. So go ahead and measure over, you know, measure, see how big it is. It should be 5 inches, but, you know, double check yours just in case something happened. I know how that can happen because it's happened to me before. It's like, whoa, this should have been something, and it ends up being something else. Draw a line. And sometimes even to double check this and make sure, I'll actually turn it around and do the same measurement from the other side. And if it's off, mine are right on target, but if it's off, I'll stitch in between the two. And that's just a way to kind of double check and make sure it's all good. Okay, so what we're going to do is come down, go over, we're going to come up and go down the same line, okay, because we don't have a lot of extra space here for credit cards. And then we're going to come back over and up. Your credit cards are going to be tight in here, especially if you're using leather. But leather stretches, right, over time. So as you use these, they're going to stretch out a little bit. And you should be able to fit a couple of credit cards in each side. All right. And you want to use 1/8 of an inch here. You really don't, if you stitch too far over, your credit cards aren't going to fit. So make sure you use 1/8 of an inch. And back stitch really good here at the tops. So I'm going to back up just a little bit, make sure I'm right on that line. And then I'm going to turn around and come right down the same line. There we have our credit card slots. Super simple. And again, remember, this is a clutch. This is an evening bag, something that you should just be able to put your license or credit card in, you know, just a little something to have, so they're not just randomly inside your bag. All right, so we are ready to put all of this together. We have all of our pieces. We have, of course, our 2 lining pieces. We have our 2 main pieces. We have our zipper and, of course, our slip handle. Okay. Me, zippers do a lot better with that. The other thing is that you can obviously put your zipper, pulling it open and close in any direction you want. This is your bag. You do what you like. I like to have my zippers closing towards the left. Again, totally up to you. It's not a rule. And what we're going to do is put some double-sided tape along the top of the bag, each top section here. And since it's quilted, I do have some valleys here. I need to go ahead and make sure I get it all the way. Now I want to remind you that on the April 22nd, we have a Sienna sew-along. I'll be actually stitching that one on my cylinder arm machine, and that is going to be a private sew-along, so it'll be given on Zoom. When you sign up for it, you're going to get the Sienna pattern, PDF pattern, so that will automatically be sent to you. And then about a week before the Zoom, or a few days before the Zoom, we're going to send you the link to actually enter the Zoom. It's going to be same time, 1 p.m. Eastern, which is 10 a.m. Pacific, and we will go through the Sienna, which is a favorite bag of everybody. I think the Julie is definitely our best seller, but the Sienna is close second. So while I'm putting double-sided tape, I'm going to go ahead and put it all along all of the pieces here. Okay. Now comes the fun part. So I always like to start up my front. Make sure my zipper is pulling in the right section. If you would like to join the Sienna, we're actually going to give away one today. So if you want to go ahead and type the keyword Sienna in the chat right now, when we're done stitching, we're going to go ahead and pick a winner. Or the computer's going to pick a winner. We're not going to pick the winner. The computer's going to pick the winner. We have a site here. So if you're interested in doing that, go ahead and type Sienna, C-I-A-N-N-A. Okay, we're going to go ahead and find the center, and I should have done this before I took the double-sided tape off, and just find the center of each one of these pieces. Okay, so we got this one here. So on the zipper tape, just go ahead and fold it in half and just put a tiny little snip. Okay, so again, zipper pull going towards the left. I'm going to match my centers. And lay this down. And again, don't pull, just kind of lay it down. And it should roughly be between your two outer vertical stitches, okay? Now you can either go ahead and do an 1/8 of an inch basting stitch on this. The double-sided tape holds it really well for me, so I'm just going to go ahead and continue on and take my lining and go ahead and put it on top. Now, you probably want to make sure that your zipper pulls are closing in the same direction. If I use my zipper pocket here, my zipper pulls are going to be closing in the opposite direction because this one is closing towards the left. So I'm going to use the credit card slots to go against the front piece. And we're just going to lay this down. And these two pieces are the same size. I'm just going to go ahead and lay this down. Now you do have a zipper pull to contend with here that you're going to have to move. You can use your zipper foot here if you'd like. You want to stitch 1/4 of an inch away from the edge. So I'm going to go ahead and move my zipper pull now, get it out of the way. And you're going all the way from the edge of the bag to the other edge. You see I'm going really slow. I've got a lot of puffiness to deal with here, and so I'm just making sure that I'm staying on track on 1/4 of an inch. Okay. This is what we have. Now, from here, we're going to top stitch, but I want to top stitch in the light gray. So I'm going to wait, I'm going to stitch my other side on, and then we'll top stitch both sides at the same time. So go ahead and just kind of fold this down, fold it out of the way. Take your other, so of course we already marked all the centers, so we're going to make sure that we line all that up. That does not look centered to me at all. Let me try that again. Okay. Just pinching these together, letting the double-sided tape help me. That looks a lot better. And then we're going to go ahead and put our other lining on. Again, lining up the centers first, and then letting the double-sided tape go ahead and do its work and hold all this together. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and stitch again, 1/4 of an inch. Now, keep in mind that if you decided to do a puffy bag, this is going to be, you get a lot of puffiness here to deal with. Okay, so just take your time with it. Make sure you get it nice and flat. And just stitch slowly. I think you can see here how much bulk I have. Again, I did that on purpose to get a puffy bag, but when you go to stitch the zipper on is where you can kind of be fighting with it a little bit. Not impossible, you just got to push it down. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move my zipper. Here we are. So now we have main parts of our bag here ready to go. We have our lining parts ready to go, and we need to top stitch before we finish up the zipper. So I'm going to switch my thread again, so that I can top stitch in the same color as my quilting. This takes obviously a little time to do, but it's going to make a difference, I think, in the appearance of the bag, which is why I'm willing to do it. It's not about speed or how quickly we can get through the bag. It has to do with how great it looks when it's done. Change the bobbin. Okay, when you top stitch, when I top stitch here, I'm going to have my 2 lining pieces and my other main piece on the right side, and then I'm going to go ahead and top stitch along the left side, catching the seam allowance where we stitch our zipper on underneath. So Gloria is asking, hello, what domestic sewing machine are you using today? I am using the Burnett 08. It's a fairly new machine for Burnett, and it is amazing. This is Italian leather I'm using. It's a lambskin, and you see it sews beautifully. It's really a great machine. I really love it. I'm using a Tex 45 thread, a size 90-14 needle, and my Teflon foot. Okay, so now that's top stitch right there. Looks great. We're going to turn this around. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to take our main part of our bag, take everything else, put it on the other side. Get rid of our threads here. Let's see. And then we are going to stitch, making sure we catch that seam allowance underneath. So Gloria, if you are, I don't know what kind of machine you have, if it's something you're looking into, but these Burnett's are what's considered, I guess you call them a semi-industrial. Basically, they're a straight stitch machine. They go forward, they go backwards, and that's it. It does have some cool built-in features like differential feed. You can adjust the height of the presser foot. I mean, there's just some really great things about it. And if you are looking for a resource for them, you can go onto our website and look at, which is simplyclassic.net. Go on to the resources section, and we have a Texas location that you can order from. The guys there at College Station at Premier Stitching are really great. So I'm making sure that seam allowance is underneath. Here we are. You're welcome, Gloria. So our lining is loose, but that's okay. It's going to help us stitch all of this and make the ends poke out well. Now, before we move on, we need to make sure we go ahead and attach our handle, our slip handle. So I always want to make sure that that raw edge, because remember we folded this in thirds, is going towards the bottom of the bag. It really doesn't matter. It's just one of those things that I think, you know, looks nicer just in case somebody's looking at it from the top, they don't see it. So I'm going to go ahead and take my rivets, and again I'm going to be using 8mm rivets. Four, of course. We're going to go ahead and stick them in. So the fact that the holes are already punched for us makes it really nice. Depending on how thick your foam is, may depend on what length of rivet you need. to make sure it looks nice and straight. And then I'm going to grab my rivet press, which is on the other side of my camera. So I'm going to lean in front of you here for just a second. And go ahead and set these. Okay, get that out of the way. And now it is just a matter of putting it all together. So I am going to switch my thread back to black, because I am done with all my top stitching, back to construction. Do this up, and then all we have to do is stitch this together and turn it, and we're done. All right, so how are you doing if you're stitching? I did allot 4 hours for this. We also have 4 hours for the sienna. Make sure that you have all your pieces prepped before the sienna, so that when you come, we will be ready to stitch. Okay, we're gonna announce the winner here in just a minute. Let's get this thing finished up. One of you is the lucky winner of the Sienna Sew-Along. Alright, so what we're going to do is from here, we want to put our main parts of our bag together, and we want to put our lining together. Make sure my bobbin's in there good. Okay, when you do this, you want to make sure, and the reason why we didn't stitch our lining down is because we want to be able to make sure that these two ends match up perfectly. So it's super important that this is matched up. The rest of it, I mean, it's good if it is. If your end is going to push towards your lining when you do this, okay? And that's okay. That's where you want it to go. And we want to make sure those are exactly perfect. And we're going to put a clip. Now, I'm not worried about my lining at this moment. I just want to make sure these two match up. So we're going to do there, and then we're going to go ahead and match them up here. Now, since this is the most important part to match, that's where we're going to start. So I'm going to go ahead and clip the rest of this. And what we're going to do is stitch from this point. We're going to come down to about halfway. We're going to start over here. We're going to stitch from this point, and we're going to go ahead and meet our stitches. If we start here and we go all the way around, it may not match up when we get to this point. There's nothing that says you have to start here or here or here or anywhere, okay? Where I want to start are the places that are most important, the places that need to match. Now, we hope that our lining or our quilting matches as we go around. If they do, you know, it should come pretty close. That's great. If it's not exact, it's not the end of the world. One's going to be on the front and one's going to be on the back, okay? What is important is that point right there and that point right there is even. So that's what we're going to make sure of. So I'm going to start here. When you go to stitch this, your presser foot should be to the right of this zipper end. Okay, so you should be able to feel that zipper end right there. You don't want to stitch over it. You're going to stitch to the right of it. I'm going to come down again, in. So I'm going to make sure they're nice and even. Put my needle in. Now that my needle's in, I can let go, I can unclip, no problem. I can move this, it's not going to move. That needle is the key to keeping it all nice and straight. So let's go ahead and just do a tiny little back stitch. And I am stitching this using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So you should not be stitching on your foam, you should be stitching just to the right of your foam. So I'm about halfway. I'm going to do a little back stitch. And then we're going to turn this and we do the same thing. So Mary says, is the presser foot a special order or did that come with the machine? This came with the machine. The Teflon foot did come with the machine. I think it did, Mary. I'm pretty sure it did. I actually have I have to go back. I actually have a video where I showed, like, not an unboxing, but kind of showed what came with the machine, how to thread it, and then I did get a separate presser foot package that they had. It has like a leather roller foot and a couple other things. I can't remember if it was in that or not. But I can find out for sure and get back to you on that. Diane says, thank you, Chris. I would appreciate on more time the chain prep. Oh, shoot. I forgot about your chain. Yep. Okay. So what you're going to do, that's a good question, is you are going to take, let me see if I've got a piece of, here. I think I have an extra piece of leather. Taylor, can you give me an extra piece of leather?
Yeah.
Let's do that, Diane. Thank you for reminding me. Okay, so here I have an extra piece of leather hide, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it, and of course I'm not going to use a rotary cutter at the point, but what I'm going to do is cut it. I think you should use 1/2 inch D-rings. So I'm going to cut this 1 inch, and I'm going to do 1 by 3. And I'm just going to, since I don't have my rotary cutter right here with me, I'm just going to mark this out with my pen and then cut it. Okay, so from here, let me get this out of the way. You're going to do 2 of these. Okay, so I'm going to do 1 with you here. Go ahead and put some double-sided tape down the center, and I'm probably going to use, well, that's all I have. Let me go ahead and I'll put a couple of pieces. And again, this is if you would like to add a chain strap or even a wristlet strap to this. This would be great for that. Go ahead and peel the backing off the tape. And you're going to fold the long edges into the center. Now this is little because you're using a 1/2 inch D-ring. Okay, just like that. Just like you would do a handle. And then we'll top stitch on both sides. So you'll have 2 of these. And what you want to do is put a D-ring on. And you will, let me unclip this. You're going to lay it, so you probably didn't put your slip handle on, I'm assuming, or maybe you did. Either way. What you're going to do is to take the D-ring, and you're going, D-ring is pointing inside your bag, and I would come down about, let's see, that's probably about a 1/2 inch from the top of the bag. Yeah, between 1/2 and 3/4 of an inch at the top of the bag. And you want to, you're using a 1/4 inch seam allowance to sew this together. So you want to make sure that your D-ring is at least 1/4 of an inch away, because otherwise when you go to stitch, you're going to end up breaking a needle. So you don't want it too far, because you don't want your end sticking out, you know, you don't want it to look crazy where it's sticking out 1 inch. But you want it, I'd say, the end of the D-ring to be maybe 1/4 inch. So let's see. So this is about 1/2 inch in. So I've got the edge of the D-ring 1/2 inch from the edge of the bag. And then what you'll do is as you stitch, you're just going to stitch right on top. And if you want to, because you want obviously a chain, you're going to put this same thing on the other side and stitch it in as well. Okay? And then that's, like I said, it's a really great thing. Even if you have a slip handle and you want the chain, or you want a wristlet, that would be a great thing to do. And then you can just put a wristlet strap on there, and the chain's going to make it look very, very sophisticated. I like that. Okay. If you have any other questions, Diane, let me know. Okay, so I'm going to go back and match this up again. And we're going to stitch. Now, I'm just going to, of course, as I stitch around to the point where I stopped, do a little back stitch, and then our front will be done. So I'm going to make sure they're nice and even. Put my needle in, and then we'll go ahead and stitch. So Diana says, thank you, perfect. Looking forward to sharing final product, and I cannot wait to see it. Okay, before we trim, let's go ahead and do the same thing with our lining. So we are going to go ahead, and since we said that, you know, let's go ahead and turn this through the pocket. We're going to go ahead and clip all the way around. Make sure that your zipper pocket is open, okay, so that you can flip this back. So we're going to stitch all the way around. Typically what happens is, you know, you can have a zipper pocket that's a lot bigger than the bottom, and it works out that you really prefer to turn it towards the bottom, then go through the pocket and close it all up. This is such a small bag again, and it's from where we're going to have to stitch, the pocket and the bottom are going to be the same, about the same space. So, okay, so I'm going to start where I left off here, or where I stopped or started, and then I'm going to come down and I'm going to go all the way around. Now, I can do the same thing here. I can start here, come down to about halfway, then start here, come down to about halfway. Whatever's easiest for you, you can go ahead and do it. You definitely want to do that on the front, but on the lining, it's not quite as important. The other thing on the lining is that you do want to take a slightly larger seam allowance all the way around, because you don't want a bulky lining. So because the lining and the main pieces, you cut the same length or the same dimensions, you want to take that bigger seam allowance on the lining. Okay. So let's see here. I'm going to do just a little back stitch. So I'm doing about a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And then as I come up this other side, I'm going to go ahead and reduce it back down to a 1/4 inch. Okay. Now, I don't necessarily trim that much on the front part of this bag because we only took a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and we really want in these edges, I'm going to make a couple little clips, but we want it to kind of take up the bulk because our stitches are not necessarily on the foam. They shouldn't be on the foam. They should be kind of next to the foam. It'll help fill in anything that the foam is lacking there. Okay, but what I am going to do is I'm going to even this up. So basically one of my pieces was slightly larger than the other. And I know that it's kind of hard to see black, but I have to do black for the show, so that's why I'm doing black today. And then I definitely want to cut back the lining part. All right, and I am going to put little snips. And all I'm doing is just doing tiny little snips. Don't cut your stitches. Just want to give this a little relief so that when you turn it, it won't bunch up too bad. All right, you ready to turn it? Let's reach in. Make sure all my zippers are open. All right, did we have a winner? Let's see. And we do. So Marietta Leonhardt, Leonard, I think it's Leonard. Marietta Leonard. You won the Sienna Sew Along, so congratulations. Email share@simplyclassic.net and we will get you the pattern and then of course the Zoom link when that comes time. So Diane says, thank you, you're a fabulous instructor. Thank you, Diane. I appreciate it. I am so glad that you were able to join us today. So because I have a couple layers of foam here, I'm definitely going to have probably a little bit more of a struggle turning this thing. It probably would have been in my best interest to close it through the bottom, but that's okay. The good thing, you know, sometimes about leather is that that kind of distressed rough look looks nice. And even though our lambskin may not necessarily be that, it's more of a smoother finish, I still think that it looks good. So I'm not too worried about that. And I see Michelle has joined us from Australia. Hey, Michelle. So let me just say that if you have not been on our Facebook group, you need to go ahead and join. It's at Simply Classic, I think, on Facebook. It's the Simply Classic Facebook community. And Michelle does some amazing hacks, and she works with leather a lot. Being from Australia, she's able to work with kangaroo leather, and really, she does a great job. So check it out. Also, make sure that you join our live streams and post your finished Simply Classic bags, because we always pick winners. We have an Artistry Avenue where we feature our customers' bags, and if we feature your bag on the live stream, then you get a PDF pattern of your choice. So make sure you join that and check it out. And then we have a lot of amazing sewists in that group, and there's a lot of good inspiration there. Okay, so from here, what I'm going to do first is push this in, make sure everything's going to look okay. And what you want to do with these ends here is just kind of stick your thumb and finger in there and push them out. And you can definitely use an edge turner here too to do that. And you can see once you do that how the zipper end is out here, and then you don't have any corners that push in. Okay, see how it's nice and straight right there? And you achieve that by using these zipper ends. Oh, I got a little thread here I need to take care of. So I'm going to push that out, make sure it all looks good. And get the rest of this bag in. This is a cushy bag, I'm going to tell y'all. Those 2 layers of foam definitely made it cushy. Whew, look at that. Looks great. Okay, so now we need to go ahead and close up our pocket. So what we're going to do is just go ahead and pull that lining out and fold that pocket under anywhere between 1/4 and 1/2 inch, just however you can get it under. I want to thank everyone for joining. Thank you so much for that. We're just going to do a little top stitch here to close this up, and we will be done. Cut our threads, stick that pocket in, poke those corners in. Ooh, I really like the light gray on this. That is so pretty. And of course you can, depending on what kind of quilting you do, what color, change the look of this bag drastically. This is obviously a very formal bag here. With the black and the silver or gray. All right, so thank you all for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed, and if you didn't get to stitch along with me today, I hope you're able to go back and watch again and stitch again, or stitch with me then. This is a great little bag, and it's a great little clutch. Of course, you're going to go through, clean up any little stitches you have. I see here I got to burn a few, and we're done. So, Simply Classic Clutch, and don't forget about our Sienna on April 22nd, and until next, here, I got to clean these up now.